Hello and welcome to this screencast. My name is Andy and I'm going to talk about dependency injection using the SIRIUS Java library. To do this, I'll first set up a small test project and show how to include the SIRIUS library into it, and then I'll talk about the ways and advantages of using dependency injection. Alright, let's get started. As SIRIUS is currently under heavy development, the best way to include it by now is using it as a Git subproject. Therefore, we create an empty Git repository and add SIRIUS as submodule. The Git URL of SIRIUS can be found on GitHub, where you also can have a look at all the sources. Alright, now that everything is there, we can open up our favorite IDE and have a look at the project. As SIRIUS provides a lot of functionality, it's split into several modules. Therefore, we have the kernel module, the web module, and the application module. For the webcast today, we only need the kernel module, therefore we add it as source directory. And we also add the resources directory as source so that we have everything there in the class path. Now, as a final step of using SIRIUS, you have to create a bunch of project-specific files, and I've quickly done that for us, and I'll show you what's there. So I've created a build folder which contains the build file, which is used by Ant to compile the project, and I've also created an IB file which is used to get all the required dependencies. In our case, the file is more or less empty. It just references the file provided by the kernel module to fetch the dependencies required by SIRIUS itself. So in order to run this, we open the Ant build, select our build file, and run the IB target. Also, I've created the resources folder with two more files. One of them is the component marker. It's basically an empty file. It just needs to be there so that the dependency injector knows that we want our classes to be handled by it. The other file is the application configuration. We use the typesafe config library, which loads the application configuration and also the configuration provided by the SIRIUS modules and makes them available in Java code. So we can have a look at the configuration file, which is right here. This is the basic configuration of SIRIUS, and we can override this in our application configuration, and I've adapted the product name so far, and the version will be set by our build file. Now, after all these configuration steps, we finally want to do something productive, and the first thing we want to do is start up the empty application framework. Although we don't have any custom classes provided, the main framework is already there and we can start it up. Therefore, we first have to add our downloaded libraries to the library path of the project, and we can do this right here. The next step is to create a run configuration to start the framework. SIRIUS provides its own main class, which is called IPL, and will take care of starting the framework. We'll also provide some VM options so that the framework knows that we are in debug mode and that we are running in an IDE, and it will output a bit more information. Alright, and off we go. As you can see, SIRIUS starts quite fast. It only took a second to boot the whole framework, load the configuration, and run the dependency injector on all the classes. Now that the framework is up and running, we can finally start making use of it. So what's dependency injection all about? Well, basically, it's about modularization and loose coupling. And the idea is that a framework like SIRIUS provides a lot of services, and you as an application developer basically do not care how it's implemented and how all the internals work. You just want to have certain services available and use them right away. On the other hand, the framework cannot know which bits and pieces are provided by the application. Therefore, it has to discover the components at runtime and integrate them into the framework properly. What's used in between all this is called the component model. And this is the place where SIRIUS stores all the services which are provided, and also where the application can provide custom modules which are then integrated. To show how this works in real life, I've created two demo classes. The first is called Demo 1. It implements an interface called Lifecycle, which basically gets notified when the framework starts up and when it's being shut down. Now that SIRIUS knows that we want to provide a component to the component model, we place a register annotation on the class. And that's all that's needed for SIRIUS to discover it. In our case, we'll simply log a message once the framework starts up. The second class is called Demo 2. This will consume the system timer services provided by SIRIUS. In this case, it will be invoked every 10 seconds as the name of the interface implicates. Here we have a run timer method which simply logs a message. The second thing we do is we access a system component which is called the memory-based health monitor and ask how many log messages have been created so far. And as I already said, we don't care how this is all implemented. We simply tell SIRIUS that we want to have the instance in our field right here so we can access it in our run timer method. As Demo 1, this class is registered as well so that it's picked up by SIRIUS and will be started with the framework. Now we can start our SIRIUS framework and it will launch our two demo classes with it. Now, as you can see, SIRIUS found our lifecycle demo and also logged, as expected, the message that the framework is started. And now, after 10 seconds, also our timer service got invoked and logged our message that it worked, and it also recorded already 9 messages. After another 10 seconds, we get the same messages, and the log messages will increase now step by step. So these are the basic steps to include SIRIUS into your custom project. Of course, SIRIUS provides a lot of other functionality, but this will be the topic of upcoming screencasts. I'll upload the sources and also the IntelliJ project files to GitHub, so you can simply download them and give it a try. Thanks for watching.